everybody. Thanks for downloading another episode of Parks and Recreation. I forgot how I start this thing. My name is Jason, and I'm joined across town by the power of the internet, my friend Jeremy. Say hey, Jeremy.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, good. Good equalizing of energy. I came in hot and unprepared, and you're like holding it down like a good bass player.
I had no clue you were starting, so.
I know. Yeah. I don't know if that's illegal or not, but I'm doing it. So
there's no rules in podcasting.
I don't think there are. I think that's one of the great things about it is people can podcast literally anything.
Mm-hmm.
Hence this show.
That's why we exist.
That's why we exist. There's no FCC.
No, it's the
podcast.
It's the Thunderdome of media.
Exactly. I was watching. I was using my eyes and my ears simultaneously about it's Ken Burns had a documentary a couple years ago, country music. And I started watching that because I DVR'd it 2 years ago. And I was like, I should probably finally get to this.
It's about how long it takes to watch it anyway.
Yeah. And a lot of it is talking about how like radio shows in the early 1900s, like they were literally desperate for content to sell things like soap, right? Hence soap operas. And the rise of country music correlates with this desperation for content for radio, which made me realize a lot of things about country music.
Continue.
I think the listener can fill in the blanks.
Anytime I try to make up a song, like just whatever, like just to amuse my kids or whatever, I quickly slip into a country persona.
That's excellent.
It's LCD, if you know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about. What does that mean?
Lowest common denominator. Just super easy.
Do you get like an accent and everything too?
I do. Oh yeah. It just happens. It just is like, well, this is easy. I can make everything rhyme. It's either
that's fantastic.
Yeah, or you go with Lenny Kravitz, where everything rhymes with sky. Mm-hmm. One of the two, country or Lenny Kravitz.
Fly.
Yeah, up to the sky like a butterfly.
Up in horsey heaven. Here's the thing.
Ooh, horsey heaven. That's from Parks and Rec.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the podcast we're going to talk about.
Yeah, this is a podcast where we talk about an episode of Parks and Recreation, and then we talk about it and assorted other things. Mm-hmm. And so, y'all, we're a little under the gun today, just because we have some time constraints. So, Jeremy, I think we should be focused.
Okay.
How's that sound?
Yeah, you said assorted, kind of like donuts. I think we should definitely talk more about donuts. This is season 5, episode 15, Correspondence Lunch, and this is overall the 83rd episode in the series.
Yes, all true facts.
Yeah.
And Jeremy, what are your general impressions as we are jumping into talking about this episode?
Yeah, I think for the first, the directorial debut of Nick Offerman, it was pretty solid.
It is his first.
Yeah, for an episode that aired on February 21st, 2013, I thought, being a 9-year-old episode, it still held up pretty well. No, my favorite part of this whole thing was Andy's kind of plot. I think everything else was kind of just, one-off kind of stuff, and Chris moving forward, but I really liked Ben and Andy's kind of plot line, which I thought was nice. It was fun. It made me excited for what's to come too. So yeah, how about you? What'd you think?
I found this one to be delightful. I did feel a little too much like it was the Law and Order of Parks and Rec, with like ripped from today's headlines with the hacking email and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so I was kind of annoyed that I forgot about that part.
You were annoyed that you forgot about it?
Well, I was annoyed that it was like, the real world is terrible. And why are you reminding me of how terrible the world is, Parks and Recreation? I come to you.
That's why we watch the show, is for escapism.
Yeah. And so all of this like hacking email and all that stuff is like, barf. But they take some barf and they make some lemonade, which may have been in the barf to begin with. They refined it, boiled it, cooled it down again. Lemonade.
It's what gives it the flavor.
Oh man. So gross. So gross. So there's 3 plot lines, really. We got the correspondence lunch, which is the main deal of this episode. Then we have Anne and her desire to have a baby, and Ben and Andy, which you mentioned. And before we get too far into any of those, we do have to address the cold open. Because in the last episode, Ben and Leslie got married, which was great. Huzzah. They went on a honeymoon. Yay. And they come back. And that's where the cold open picks up. And they are bringing gifts for their coworkers. And some of these gifts are thoughtful. And Jerry's isn't.
And yet he's grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. He got socks for Christmas from Leslie a few episodes ago, and he was just like, she gets me.
You guys.
So he's not expecting much. But I do like the gifts and the rationale. For Chris, they got an acai plant because acai berries are a superfood. And so that's great. For Tom.
And a super gift.
Yeah, exactly. And for Tom, they got a signature headshot of one of the stars of CBS's Hawaii Five-0 reboot.
Scott Caan.
Yeah, who is also in Ocean's 11, which is a fantastic movie. Yeah. And I love him and Casey Affleck in that movie. They may be my second favorite part of the movie. My first favorite part is the fact that Brad Pitt was eating in every scene.
The entire time. I was going to say Rusty eating. Yeah.
I think that just gave me hope.
And was it Scott Caan also in Gone in 60 Seconds?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, if
there was cars involved, and it was the early 2000s. Scott Caan was in it.
Yeah, and it's like, who can we get in this movie who is just a generic white person? Scott Caan. So that's nailed it. And then for Anne, they got her some tea from a guy that they had talked about. They met in a restaurant who brought them to another guy in a parking lot, and it was supposed to help Anne get pregnant. And as Leslie's explaining the procedure, getting this, she realizes this is not tea. This is something else entirely.
And Andy and April kind of look at each other like, because she throws it in the garbage can, is like, oh, don't worry, we'll get it. Don't worry, we'll get it later.
We'll find out what that's about.
We'll try that.
Yeah. And Ron gets an idol of the mask of the Hawaiian god of anger, and they said it reminded us of you. Like, he's a fine-looking fellow.
Had the Ron haircut.
Everything about it was like, yes, excellent, nailed it. And they threw a box in a volcano for April, and she just said thank you, which was maybe the best gift of all. And Jerry got some airplane headphones and peanuts. So the free stuff they get you,
just like last time from Washington.
Exactly. That's so good. I one of the things that was nice about the pandemic was not being able to travel so much.
Yeah,
because there's always that weird pressure from your kids and like family. Like, what'd you bring me back? And like, I don't really go when I travel. I don't really go anywhere super fun for work, right? Like, I go to work. I go on like trips to developing nations or things like that. There's like no real touristy stuff.
Yeah, like I know your travels, and I'm aware of where you go, and I've never been super disappointed when you haven't brought me back something from Boise. Like, I mean, I get it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not saying it would. I'm not saying it wouldn't be nice, but at the same time, I get it. It's Boise.
I came back from Cuba though, and my favorite gift ever traveling that I gave to my son was from Cuba, because you and I went to Cuba together, and we there's that market that we went to, like a little like flea market thing, and they were selling wallets with Che Guevara's face on them.
Yes.
And I came home and I bought one for my son, and I gave it to him, and he said, "What is this?" I said, "This is the gift of irony."
Did he get it?
No. But every time he took that wallet places and he used it, and just made me laugh so hard every time. And it's like, yeah, this is fantastic. Yeah. So anyway, but so they give the gifts, and Jerry is just really thrilled with those.
I miss Sky Mall. Just going to say, I mean, that is the one thing. Like, this is kind of nice to flip through and just look at all these absolutely useless things. They're like, oh, this is awesome. I would never spend money on this.
Yeah. I mean, Sky Mall was funded by all the people who were like, we're desperate to sell these dog stairs. How much does it cost to get our product a full page in Sky Mall?
Yeah.
And like Lord of the Rings, like replicas, which was like for years after the movies came out, it was still, hey, you're traveling. You know who else traveled? Let me tell you about my friend named Frodo. You don't want to get out there without a nice throw blanket with the poem from The Ring on it. One blanket to rule them all.
In Elvish.
Yeah, it's like, I can't even read this.
Or how about garden alligators? Like there's the whole garden section where it was like, you know, the woodland face guy that you put on your tree and just wacky gnomes.
Yeah. Well, careful with the gnome talk.
Oh, sorry.
Somebody in my household told the internet that they like gnomes, and that person has way too many gnomes now. So,
and by proxy, you now have too many gnomes.
Yeah. We had a gnome that somebody gave to us, like if that was a potted plant.
Mm-hmm. And it grew more gnomes.
Pot, that's the word. And so Kathy put it outside on our deck, and it rained and rained and rained, and the gnome pot dissolved. So now it's still on our deck. It's just a pile of ash. And so my son came home one time and was like, he got blipped. It was just great. I loved it. So that's the cold open. Jeremy, let's talk about these plots. Which one should we go with first?
Oh man. I think yeah, what do the dogs think? I'm
sorry. My listener, my dogs are amped up.
Come on, man. Mark Maron has his cats. It's fine. Nobody can, like, people love animals. It's great.
Good.
Let's do the correspondence lunch. Let's just or let's do Anne's, because that's kind of the weakest. I don't know. It wasn't funny.
Okay.
Really? So let's get that out of the way.
All right. We'll walk through Anne's plot. There's a little bit of overlap with the correspondence lunch, but it's going to be just fine. So I got to scroll down here to my notes. I don't have the whole script in front of me because I had a kind of a busy morning. But I did take notes because Anne in the last episode recognized that Chris can be kind of paternal. And so now she has decided to ask Chris to be the father of her baby. But she hasn't talked to him about it yet. And so she's super nervous whenever she sees him. So they're walking in the hall and she sees him and runs into Ron's office to hide. And Ron is playing darts because he is a efficient government employee. And he's like, what are you doing in here? And then Anne says, I need to ask your opinion. I have a friend who I want to ask his help with something. But I haven't had the courage to ask. And Ron's like, okay, what is it? And he's like, well, I want to plant ficuses in my front yard. And Ron's response is, I've been to your house. You'd have better luck with ficuses in the backyard.
Nope.
And I love Anne's response, like, I'm positive that's not true. Because Ron doesn't know that ficuses is a baby. So they, Ron's just like, you gotta just tell him, and see what happens. And so then fast forward, they're at the correspondence lunch, and Anne's like working up the courage, and they're all the Parks people and Chris are at the same table. And Chris points out at the lunch he got the wrong meal, but his ex-girlfriend Shauna Malway Tweep is right behind him, and they had their meals switched. And so they switch and they start flirting, and it makes Anne feel all nervous. And later on, they're at the lunch, and Anne is like talking to Ron, like, look at them flirting like crazy. And Ron's like, that's a conversation. And then she says, Ron, there are no ficuses. I want Chris to be the father of my baby. And Ron's just like, and your metaphor was that was ficuses?
Worst metaphor ever.
Yeah. And he just walks away. I love that. He's like, bye. And so fast forward a little farther, Anne is going up to talk to Chris, and he's with Perd Hapley, which is important. And Anne says, first of all, like, I want to ask you, what's your spirit animal? And immediately Chris is like, jaguar. Like, he just knows, jaguar. And then Perd's like, you didn't ask me, but if you did, I would say a doggy.
A dog. Just a doggy.
And not a specific kind of dog,
Mm-mm.
just a doggy. Like Purd has categories that are just very broad. And so like he would probably say, like Chris saying a jaguar, specific kind of jungle cat.
Right.
Purd would probably have just called that a kitty.
Yeah,
So-
it's all encompassing.
So any kind of dog. And Ron is there, and he finally just like he forces Anne to ask the question that that she's wrestling with. And so she says, like, Chris, I want you to be the father of my baby. And then Purd, it's like, the story of this situation is it's extremely personal. And so Anne asks the question and then runs away. So next day, Chris and Anne finally talk, and he says he needs some time to think about it. And Ron is just like, or Anne's like, yeah, great. Take your time, not too much time. I'm ovulating on Thursday, but no rush. But let me know. And you could see like the joy in Chris's face, like, hey, this could be a really good thing. And then the pressure of like, I need to know in 2 days.
Right.
It's like, oh, that's too much.
Wear loose pants.
Yeah. And then one of the things, like, great shot is as Chris is walking down the hall, you see Anne in the background yell, "Wear loose pants," and then she runs like a frightened middle schooler, like away out of the hall. Like you could see like she was so embarrassed by what she just said, and she like shrinks down as small as she can get and runs away. It's pretty
there's
great.
strong middle school vibes from Anne's whole storyline in this episode.
Yeah. And so, but she does go into Ron's office, and is like, "Hey, Ron, you were right." And he's playing darts again. He's like, "Yep, I know. Get out." And she turns around and leaves. So, Ron was strong in this part of the story. You want to? I don't know what my dog is barking at, but she's got a lot to say. You want to talk about the A plot since we had a little correspondence stuff going on?
Sure, absolutely.
All right. And so, the Correspondence Lunch is a play on the White House Correspondence Dinner that has happened for years and years and years, except for 4 years ago. They stopped doing it because there was a man child who was president and couldn't handle people making fun of him publicly. And then he left, and now it's back. And so
was that the extended cut? That wasn't in my version.
The part about the man child being president?
Yeah.
Well, that's just in reality.
Okay. I
don't know if you remember the years from January 2017 to January 2021.
Mm-mm.
Well, good for you, man. Those were not easy for, normal things. The heaviness of it all. Anyway,
Come back.
I'm back. All right. So Leslie is prepping with her team for her set at the Correspondence Dinner, which is where the government and the press of Pawnee make fun of each other. And again, the press in Pawnee is much too large.
Yes.
There are too many people being the press in a small town in Indiana, but whatever.
I mean, they have so much press, they have their own tabloid.
Yes, the Pawnee Sun, which is a lot of what Leslie is trying to go after, is the Pawnee Sun, because they spend 364 days a year going after her, and she gets 1 day a year. Is that right? 365? How many days are in a year? 365.
Yeah.
And then 366 for a leap year. Got it. So in the conference room, Leslie is having a practice session with her people to work out all her material. And none of these jokes are amazing, but the people really, really dig it. And Ron offers a joke, which is, Ron, like the epitome of Ron's humor. And his joke is this: the government in this town is excellent and uses your tax dollars efficiently. And then he starts laughing. And Leslie's like, I don't think that's a joke. And Ron's like, oh, it's very funny. So this is going to go great. And then they get to the Correspondence Dinner, and Kim Churlando from the Pawnee Sun, the tabloid, is talking to Leslie, and Leslie's like, you better prepare yourself because you can't handle my jokes, essentially. She even made up a can of whoop ass that she's going to open as she tells all of her jokes. And so she's riding high on her own supply here of humor. And then the Pawnee Sun, though, they go first. And Kim starts reading Leslie's jokes, even the jokes about the Pawnee Sun. Like, she's owning it before Leslie can intervene. And so
classic Eminem move.
Eminem, like the candy?
No, like the rapper. Do you ever watch 8 Mile? You got to make fun of yourself. You take all the ammunition away. Then
right.
They can't rap battle you.
Right, exactly. That's how I win all my rap battles.
This is like a comedy battle, and she's winning.
Yeah. Great reference to 8 Mile.
Topical.
You got to lose yourself in the moment you own it. You better never let it go.
Yeah.
You only got one shot.
Mom spaghetti.
Palms are sweaty. Mom spaghetti already. What rhymes with orange? Door hinge. So Leslie is like, oh, she's stealing all our jokes. I can't believe this. And then she opens the can of whoop ass that she made and starts drinking. It's like, I just opened a can of whoop ass on myself.
I hate that.
So then it cuts away, comes back, and Congressman Milton is sharing that, they've been doing this correspondence for a long time. It's so long that he rode to the first one on a horse and buggy, and everybody starts laughing. It's like, that's not a joke. Like, I really did. And people keep laughing at that. It's like, that's still not a joke. So Leslie is trying to figure out, like, how did they get these notes? And everybody starts like pulling out their own copies of the jokes, and Jerry can't find his. Now, my real question is, why would everybody have copies of the jokes? Why would that even be a thing? This is part of the where I start to lose my credibility with Leslie's team here.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the meeting, like when they were at the when she was doing the pre-read or whatever. And so maybe they just kept their copies with them the entire time. Why? You're right. I don't know. But for plot purposes, it shows that there's doubt. Like, oh, she got a hold of a copy.
Yeah, because Jerry can't find his. And so he has to go stand in the corner, and he can't have cake.
I love that one. Yeah, she's like, stand in the corner, think about what you've done, and no dessert. And then the guy's like,
cake.
And he just like kind of waves his hand like, no, I can't.
Yeah. So then they have to come up with jokes on the fly. And Anne tries to write a joke, and it's not good. And a lot of it is like, how some things are green, and like dinosaurs are green, and like Milton's so old, and maybe there's something there. And Leslie's like, Anne, you're too beautiful to be funny. You've never had to overcome anything. And then, yeah, and then immediately he's like, I need the rest of you ugly nerds to write some jokes.
And Chris just looks at the camera like, wait a minute.
And then so now everybody's going to try to write some jokes, and they cut back, and Joan Calamezzo is telling some jokes about Purd, and Purd is like, it seems like everybody is laughing. So
he's okay with it.
Yeah, he doesn't understand that those are things directed at him. And then so Leslie's like, all right, I'll do impressions. And she's got Borat, which is Borat. And then she wants to do Nev Campbell. And she like, what does Nev Campbell sound like? Somebody tell me what Nev Campbell sounds like. And then Joan starts reading the intro that Leslie wrote for herself, which includes telling people that they better have brought their adult diapers because they are going to pee themselves with laughter. And she's like, oh no, this is bad.
And Joan, so the look of disdain on Joan's face.
Yeah.
Like, Leslie, like anytime she can just dig it, Leslie, like, you're disgusting.
Mm-hmm. Leslie is Joan's opposite of spirit animal.
Oh, the spirit trapper.
Yes. That's excellent, because often Joan wears animal print clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right. Nailed it. So Leslie comes up and she bombs right away. And she does one of my favorite jokes, which is something that if you've done open mic, when your time is up, they flash a light in the back so that you can see like, oh, I gotta wrap this up. I'm like, she's giving me the light she points to the back. They're giving me the light, and it's totally lit up. Like it's not a dark room at all. And so a flashlight in the back would be nothing. So she just gets off stage, and everybody's like, oh, that happened. So then cut back move forward a little bit. Jerry comes like, I didn't lose my copy. It was in my shoe.
Mm-hmm.
And then Leslie starts thinking like, okay, so how'd they get this? And then she realizes that the Kim Churlando has been like asking her questions that like are like scoops, but it's stuff that's only been in her email. And they realize that Kim hacked her email. And so Leslie immediately smashes a phone. Turns out it's Jerry's phone, but she needs to stop getting hacked. And so they try to figure out how they did it. They go back to the office. They started reading through all of her email. My favorite one is the one Chris gets that says, here's an email to me. You said, thanks. You're welcome. And that's it. And so then Donna has this idea to set up a sting operation.
Yes.
Which is wonderful. Because they go to they call a press conference, and Leslie tells them to look under their chairs, and underneath they find a bag of dirt. One person like, is it chocolate? Because it's like, that's what Leslie would do at a press conference. And
right.
The press knows, like, that's why there's so many people coming to these things. There may be candy.
Even better, it's dirt.
Yeah, it's dirt. And Leslie is highlighting how they have reached minimal acceptable standards from the EPA.
Not too shabby.
Yeah. So it's a victory for the whole team. But then the Pawnee Sun stands up, and Jeremy, what does Kim have to say about the dirt report?
Oh yeah. That it has something called midi-chlorians in the soil. That the EPA found it. Midi-chlorians.
Yeah. Now that sounds serious.
Yeah, you don't want a bad case of midi-chlorians.
No, it can ruin so much.
Like almost a movie franchise.
Almost. Man.
Where do you stand on that? What are midi-chlorians, Jason?
Well, we've come to find out, and Leslie has also told this, that midi-chlorians are from the movie Star Wars, and it's something that almost ruined a franchise, according to her husband, Ben. So midi-chlorians are the things in a person in the Star Wars universe that make them force sensitive so that they can interact with the force.
Yeah.
And in Star Wars Episode 1, the Phantom Menace, whatever.
The Phantom Menace, yeah.
Phantom, not a Phantom, the Phantom Menace. We learned that Anakin Skywalker, who later turns out to be Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker is just chock full of midichlorians. Like, he's got midichlorians out his ears.
200% daily recommended value.
Yeah, like since the pandemic started, I've been taking Emergency every day. I have so much vitamin C in my body that like I think I am force sensitive. So that is, I have too much, and that's the situation with the midichlorians. But Donna, this was her whole plan. It was, she knew Kim was scooping out stuff out of the email, and so she's like, "This is a trap that I set for you, into which you have fallen." And so
which is that's another, like, it's a trap from
from Star Wars. Yeah,
it's a trap. General Akbar.
Yes, Admiral Akbar.
Admiral.
Come on, he flies a ship.
Revoked. Nerd card revoked.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll forgive you this time. And so Kim Churlando was like, "Well, I was too busy being awesome in high school, hooking up with guys. I don't watch these movies, so I'm out of here." And she leaves in disgrace. And Leslie then says, "All right, well, she stole all my jokes, and so now I wrote a whole bunch of new jokes, so here we go." And Donna then immediately closes down the press conference because she's smart. So that's the A plot with the correspondence lunch, which is a fun plot there. So anything else from that section of the show that we should highlight?
No.
All right. Excellent.
We should keep going.
All right. We will keep going. The C plot, Ben is starting his new job at the Sweetums Foundation. which is basically a PR effort for Sweetums to cover up all of the terrible things their company does.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben is like, yeah, there's rumors going around that there's rat parts in the chocolate. And Jessica, Nick, the wife of Nick Newport Senior, who died, she's running the foundation now. And her response to Ben is like, well, what do you think the flavor comes from? And not great. But as you look at the Sweetums Foundation office, it's very fancy. And Ben points out, like, this is a great job. I'm going to help people. And I have in my office more mahogany than is left in the rainforest. So win-win, except for the rainforest. And so Andy and April and Tom come to see his new office. And Ben's like, hey, can you guys help me look through some of these different proposals to give grants to? And Andy is just really sad and bummed as he's staring out the window into the hallway. And April points out that he's just really, ever since he found out he's not going to be a cop, he's just been really sad and sweaty. And usually he's happy and sweaty.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom is not interested in helping people. And so he's like, well, this seems like a lot of work for y'all, but I'm going to get out of here. But then Ben's like, well, they bring me nice lunches, so you can have some of that. And so Tom stays for the nice lunch. And so they start going through the different binders, and Andy finds one that's an after school program to help people stay off the streets because the streets are dangerous. And he gives the example of how one time he fell in a sewer grate and he was stuck there for hours. And so we want to help people not do that. Thank you very much, Your Honor. Amen. And so
we don't want kids living in the sewer any longer.
Yeah, I love that he just ends his pitch with "Amen." So it's like that's like a really great program.
Yeah, and then Tom's pick is called the Clean Sheet Foundation, which sounds like kind of good.
You think when you read it, it's like, oh, that's about like preventing bed bugs.
Sure.
And the diseases they bring.
Mm-hmm.
What is it actually, Jeremy?
Providing legal assistance to the KKK.
Yeah. And Tom does not care because he's enjoying, I think it's a smoothie at that point. I can't remember. He's...
he's sitting there drinking like an espresso, his tiny espresso in his robe. And he's like, can you pass the bonbons? He's like, yeah, that's my pick. No shame. I'm just here for the perks.
Yeah, which is also what Jessica's there for. We come to find out. Mm-hmm. And so Ben, they keep looking through, and then Ben finally says, all right, I've selected this rural ambulance service that will get medical help to people in difficult places to reach because they don't have normal city infrastructure for ambulances and stuff, which is like a really great idea.
Yeah.
It's like it is a genuinely important thing. And Ben is looking at it practically, like this is going to help people. This is going to be great. And Andy is devastated. And this is some of the best acting Chris Pratt has ever done. Because he's just like, oh, okay. And he's like, I'm going to go outside. And then everybody leaves. Tom is pretty stoked that, but also he leaves, but comes back to get the oysters.
He's got a bag and he's taking the champagne and stuff and all the freebies in it.
Yeah, because Tom's a mad genius, and so April is really mad at Ben because he says like Andy's been so sad for so long, and this music thing like really got him excited. And why did you have to choose this thing? Why do you have to be so selfish?
I'm running a charity.
And he's like, it's all about you. So, So April, like standing up for her man, and they love each other so much, and like she really wants him to rebound and feel better, and like their dynamic is really great in this. Like she's trying to help him, and so Ben has Andy come over to his office the next day, and Andy. Ben explains kind of what's going on, and he's like, no, it makes sense. Like music program's good, but this is going to help people right away. I totally get it. But Andy also points out that like, you guys are spending a lot of money on things that don't matter. Like the decorations and the lunches, like imagine what you could do if you got rid of all this. You could probably help 1 billion charities. And Ben's like, you know what? You're right. And then Andy shares an interesting fact about his fart. He farted 5 minutes ago and just now smelling it. And that's how tight my pants are.
Anyhow, later, dudes.
And so Jessica comes to see Ben, and she's so stoked about the redneck ambulance. And it's like, we could go and take a picture of some hayseed getting medicine for the first time.
Or we could figure out the picture later.
And then Ben says, yeah, this is going to be great, but we need to stop wasting all of this money. And Jessica is like, but all of this is a tax write-off. And he's like, Ben doesn't care about that. He actually is like, I actually want to help people. And so they're going to move out of that office and stop wasting all the money on all the things. And Jessica is like, you can get your own portrait at one point. I forgot to mention that Jessica's naked portraits of Nick and herself are in Ben's office now. So they're going to stop doing all of that stuff. In the credits scene, Ben goes to Andy and says, hey, I need an idea, man. And Andy is like, you should get Tom. He loves ideas. It's like, no, it's somebody else.
They're in the courtyard at City Hall.
Yeah. And he's like, looks over, there's somebody at the table across the way. He's like, is it that guy? Because Andy does not get subtlety. And so Ben just has to say like, no, it's going to be you. I need you. And so then Andy hugs him, and it's a good, like, coming around, and this will set up some exciting stuff for Chris in the future. That will actually take him away from the show for a little bit. Not Chris Pratt, not I get
Andy.
Confused. Yeah. Andy will be away from the show a little bit because he's going to be busy making a movie called Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. And that's the episode.
See ya.
Bye. I don't know if there's anything else that we need to highlight.
Just one of the funniest parts in the cold open that we kind of skipped over was when Andy's gift. What did Andy get from Hawaii?
Andy got some white t-shirts from Target.
Because all of his were dirty.
Yes.
Thank you, Hawaii.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. Like,
I think I'm going to start doing stuff like that when people travel. Like, hey, can I get you anything? It's like, I could use some paper towels.
We're out of trash bags.
It's so exotic in Iowa. Yeah. There's no, jumping over to the IMDb, there's not really a lot of trivia.
No.
There's one thing they note here in the continuity error. When Anne and Ron are talking to Chris and Perd's cake changes from having a bite missing to being untouched. So, classic sign of multiple takes, and Perd having a snack in a later take, but splicing them all together and not catching that. So, and then the set ceiling is visible twice in the correspondence lunch, but it's in a room, so rooms have ceilings.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I was like, I don't, whatever. It's fine.
Sometimes people, I don't see why that would be a goof, but I'll have to rewatch it.
Only one thing to do: rewatch it. Next episode is Bailout, where we get Jason Schwartzman and his video store.
That's funny. That'll be a fun one. So, yeah. Well, listener, this is the end of the road. We have to go.
Thanks but coming. Before we do, tell your friends about the show. Please.
Tell them. Don't tell them. I mean, what does it matter anymore?
Whatever. Yeah, it's 85 episodes in at this point,
Yeah. I'm doing my part. I'm telling people about it. I even posted it on my blog. So.
You have a blog?
Oh, yeah. I've had a blog since like 2004.
Woo.
Yeah.
That was the original podcast.
It's myname.com.
That's a weird one.
JasonDuman.com.
It's not myname.com. Oh.
Yeah. Does somebody have that?
Do you have is it linked to your MySpace page?
myname.com. No. Oh, somebody's just parked on here.
Yeah.
Smart.
We'll keep looking at that. I'm going to go pick up my kids. And I'll talk to you next week.
Yes, indeed. We'll see you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.